All right, so you're getting ready for a substance misuse worker interview.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a career that really, I think, asks a lot of a person,
Yeah,
both sort of your brain and your heart.
definitely.
So in this deep dive, we're going to take a look at some of those tough interview questions.
Okay.
And we're also going to bring in some career wisdom from RoleCatcher's guides.
Cool.
And even show you how their AI can help you prepare.
Oh, wow. It's like having like a personalized interview coach right there in your pocket.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So let's just jump right in.
Okay.
What does this role actually entail? We're going to use RoleCatcher's career guides to give us an idea.
Well, it's so much more than just counseling.
Yeah.
A substance misuse worker is really a lifeline.
Right.
Think about like crisis intervention, advocating for clients to access resources, and really dealing with kind of the ripple effect that substance abuse has on mental health, employment, housing.
Yeah, it's the whole picture.
The whole picture.
Yeah. So, okay, let's say you're hit with that classic opener.
Yeah.
Tell me about your experience working with individuals who have substance misuse issues.
Right.
How do you go beyond just listing your previous jobs?
Well, this is your chance to really showcase the impact that you've had.
Okay.
Did you help somebody you know through a really rough withdrawal?
Yeah.
Advocate for a client to get into a program that they really needed.
Mm-hmm.
And, stories, people remember stories.
Totally. And while you're at it, why not sprinkle in some of those gems from RoleCatcher's career guide?
Absolutely. The guide talks about quantifying your accomplishment.
Okay.
So instead of just saying, I helped clients,
Yeah.
you can try something like, my interventions led to a 30% increase in client adherence to treatment plans.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, numbers have a big impact.
Numbers are powerful. I
Right.
like that a lot. And speaking of impact, the guide also talks about the importance of continuous learning.
Oh, for sure.
So how do you stay up to date with new developments in the field of substance misuse?
Yeah, well, this is where you show that you're not just keeping up, but you're actually seeking out that new knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
So you can mention a specific journal,
Yeah.
a recent conference,
Okay.
maybe even like a research finding that's really influenced your work.
That's great. I love that.
Yeah.
And what if they were to follow that up with, tell me about a recent development that really made you rethink your approach?
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
You could talk about a therapy approach, like motivational interviewing,
Mm-hmm.
and how learning about that really shifted the way you thought about engaging with clients.
Okay.
Or maybe like a research study on the effectiveness of a harm reduction strategy
Yeah.
that really challenged some assumptions that you had.
Interesting. And I think it's good to remind our listeners that RoleCatcher's AI can actually analyze job descriptions and suggest talking points for these types of questions.
Yeah.
So you can practice your answers, get feedback, really hone your message.
It's really like having a personal editor for your interview skills.
That's a great way to think about it. Okay, now for a question that can really kind of test how resilient you are.
Okay.
Describe a time you dealt with a particularly challenging client.
Oh, yeah.
How do you approach a question like that?
Well, first, you want to choose a situation that really highlights your composure, your empathy, and your ethical decision-making.
Mm-hmm.
And then just walk the interviewer through those challenges that the client presented,
Yeah.
the strategies that you used, and then what happened.
Okay. And did RoleCatcher's guide offer any advice on how to structure this response?
It did. It really emphasized the importance of focusing on what you learned from the experience,
Okay.
even if the outcome wasn't perfect.
Oh, interesting.
Did it teach you a new technique? Did it help you communicate better?
Yeah.
Did it kind of reinforce the importance of self-care?
Right.
All those things are important.
Those are great points.
Mm.
Now let's think about treatment planning. You're bound to get a question like, describe your approach to developing treatment plans.
For sure.
So how would you answer that?
Here's where you really show off your clinical expertise.
Yeah.
You want to emphasize client-centered care. That's a key concept that RoleCatcher's guide talks about.
Right.
And explain how you gather information and assess their needs and involve them in setting goals.
And don't forget to mention specific evidence-based practices like CBT or DBT.
Right. And how you tailor those practices to the individual person.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that's important to show that you can apply the knowledge in a real setting.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, let's look at a question that I think is really, really important these days.
Okay.
How do you ensure your work is culturally sensitive and responsive?
Mm-hmm.
What's the best way to answer that?
This is about more than just saying you value diversity.
Yeah.
You really need to show that you understand cultural differences. Yeah. And how those differences can affect a client's experience.
I feel like RoleCatcher's Guide spends a lot of time on this topic.
It does. It really emphasizes the importance of getting trained in cultural competency, using tools and resources that are culturally appropriate, and really adapting your communication style to honor each person's values and beliefs.
So you give an example, like I've taken a workshop on working with LGBTQ plus individuals in recovery. Or I always use an interpreter if a client speaks a different language.
Exactly. Those are concrete examples that show you're walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
I like it. Okay, let's talk about teamwork.
Okay.
Describe a time you collaborated with other professionals to address a client's needs.
Yeah.
That's a really common question, I think.
It is, and it's all about highlighting your communication skills and how you can contribute as part of a team.
Right.
You want to choose a story that shows shared decision-making, respect for other people's perspectives, and of course, a real focus on the client's well-being.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And before we go on to the next question, I want to mention something that I thought was really helpful in RoleCatcher's Guide.
Okay.
They have a whole section on networking, and it really stresses how important that is for your career.
It's true. Attending conferences, joining professional organizations, connecting with people on LinkedIn. You never know what opportunities might come up.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Okay, let's shift gears now and look at a question that's all about the family.
Okay.
How do you provide support for clients, families, and loved ones? Why is that so important in this field?
Well, addiction doesn't just affect the person using substances.
Right.
It impacts everyone around them.
Yeah.
So they want to see that you understand family dynamics and that you can involve the family in a positive way.
What are some good ways to showcase your skills in this area?
You could talk about your experience with family therapy sessions, support groups for families, or even educational resources that help families understand addiction and recovery.
Now, I remember RoleCatcher's Guide mentioning specific techniques for working with families.
Yes. Things like setting boundaries or addressing enabling behaviors.
Right.
If you've dealt with those kinds of situations, share those examples. It shows that you can handle the complexity of families.
Makes sense.
Oh.
All right, now for a question that really requires you to think on your feet, describe a time you addressed a client's substance misuse issues in a crisis situation.
Okay.
What are they looking for with a question like that?
Well, they want to see how you handle pressure. So choose a scenario that's really compelling, like a relapse, an overdose, or a mental health emergency, and then describe how you assessed the situation, de-escalated the crisis, provided immediate support, and connected the client with the resources they needed.
I feel like this is your chance to shine as a problem solver.
It is. And don't forget to emphasize your commitment to keeping the client safe.
Of course, safety first.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, we have covered a lot of ground.
We have.
But don't worry, there's more to come. We'll be back in part 2 to continue this deep dive into substance misuse worker interview prep.
Looking forward to it.
Stay tuned. Welcome back to the show. We're diving even deeper now into substance misuse worker interview prep.
That's right. Still with those insights from RoleCatcher and all their AI tools.
Yeah, I think it's interesting as we're going through these questions, just how much emphasis there is on really understanding addiction. It's not just about treating the symptoms, but it's about addressing the whole person.
Yeah, the whole person, for sure.
So let's revisit that first question that we talked about.
Okay.
Tell me about your experience working with individuals who have substance misuse issues.
Right.
But this time, with a focus on showcasing, your understanding that addiction is a complex issue.
Oh.
So instead of just listing types of substance misuse you've encountered.
Right.
We're going deeper.
Deeper, yeah.
What are those underlying factors that contribute?
Exactly. You could talk about things like social determinants of health, trauma, mental health conditions. You could even mention, specific models of addiction, like the biopsychosocial model. Yeah.
To show that you really understand.
Yeah, that shows a deeper level of knowledge that I think interviewers are looking for.
Yeah, they want to know you're not just there to hand out a pamphlet.
Right.
You want to understand who they are.
You're there to really understand the individual.
Exactly.
And that's where I think RoleCatcher's AI can come in handy.
Oh, for sure.
You can upload the job description.
Yes.
And it can suggest talking points for that specific role.
That's right.
So if the job description emphasizes, trauma-informed care,
right,
maybe the AI would suggest you talk about, your experience working with clients who have experienced trauma.
Exactly. Or your training in those approaches.
Yeah, it takes out some of the guesswork.
It does.
So, okay, let's talk about a question that almost always comes up.
Okay.
How do you handle a client's relapse?
Ooh, yeah.
Which is tricky, I think, because relapse can be seen as a failure.
It can be, but it's important to remember that it's often a part of recovery.
That's true. Yeah, so you want to answer this question with a lot of empathy
Okay.
and a non-judgmental attitude.
Does RoleCatcher talk about relapse at all?
They do. They have a whole section on relapse prevention.
Okay.
And they say, it's important to look at relapse as a chance to learn and grow
Oh, that's good.
for both the client and the professional.
Interesting. So instead of, panicking,
Yeah.
what would you do?
Well, I would walk them through my process,
Okay.
how I would assess the situation,
Yeah.
how I would make sure the client was safe.
Yeah.
Do you modify the treatment plan
Okay.
based on what caused the relapse?
Yeah.
How do you help them re-engage with their recovery goals?
And I think this goes back to what we were saying about collaboration.
Absolutely. Don't forget to mention how you would work with their support system,
Mm-hmm.
family therapist, doctor, whoever it might be.
Yeah, to create, a really comprehensive plan.
Exactly.
Okay, let's tackle another tough one.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on harm reduction strategies?
Ooh, that's a hot topic.
Yeah.
But I think interviewers might bring it up
Mm-hmm.
to see, what you know about the different approaches.
Okay.
So how do you answer without getting into like a big philosophical debate?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
I would start by defining harm reduction really clearly and
Okay.
explain that it's about reducing the bad consequences.
Hmm.
Even if the person's not ready to stop using substances,
Okay.
you can give examples.
Yeah, what kind of examples?
Things like needle exchange programs,
Yeah.
safe injection sites,
Right.
naloxone distribution.
Mhm.
And, you can point out that while stopping completely is usually the goal,
Right.
harm reduction can help people get to a place where they're ready for recovery.
Like a bridge.
Yeah, like a bridge.
Now, not everybody agrees on harm reduction,
That's true.
but even if you personally favor abstinence,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's good to acknowledge that harm reduction plays a role,
It does.
in public health, in meeting people where they're at. And again, this is where RoleCatcher's AI can be helpful.
Yes.
If you're not sure how to approach this,
Right.
you can get feedback on your answer.
Practice it.
Okay, moving on to a question that I think is crucial in any helping profession.
Okay.
How do you manage your own stress
Mm-hmm.
and avoid burnout,
Yes.
especially in a field like substance misuse,
Oh, it's so important.
where you're dealing with, really difficult situations?
Right.
So how do you answer this authentically?
Well, you want to be honest about your strategies,
Okay.
but specific.
What works for you?
Yeah. Do you meditate?
Yeah.
Do you exercise? Spend time in nature?
Yeah.
Do you have a good support network?
I was reading RoleCatcher's Career Guide,
Yeah.
and they really emphasize supervision
Yes.
and peer support
It's essential.
in avoiding burnout.
It really is.
So, admitting that you need support,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the sign of strength.
It is. It shows self-awareness.
Yeah.
And that you're committed to ethical practice.
So you could say something like, I make sure I have regular supervision
Yes.
to process challenging cases
Mhm.
and make sure I'm providing the best possible care.
Or you could say, I'm part of this organization
Mm-hmm.
that offers peer support and, a chance to connect with others.
Right. So you're not isolated.
Exactly.
All right, let's get to the heart of why someone would choose this career.
Okay.
What draws you to working with people who have substance misuse issues?
Oh, this is a good one.
Yeah.
Let your passion shine through.
Yeah.
Talk about your values, your experiences, your beliefs.
Yeah. Were you impacted by addiction personally?
Mm-hmm.
Did you see someone struggle with it?
Right.
Or maybe you just really want to help people overcome challenges.
Exactly. Be yourself.
Don't be afraid to share a personal story here.
It's okay to be a little vulnerable.
And if you're having trouble, expressing yourself,
Mm-hmm.
RoleCatcher's AI can help you brainstorm
It can.
and find the right words.
And even language that will resonate with that specific organization.
Yeah. So let's go back to something we talked about earlier,
Okay.
career progression.
Right.
RoleCatcher's Guide has a lot to say about the different stages.
It does. From entry level to, more senior roles.
Mm-hmm.
What skills and experience you need.
And it's not just about climbing the ladder.
Yeah.
It's about different areas you can specialize in.
Like prevention treatment research.
Right. So even if you don't know where you want to end up,
Mm-hmm.
it's helpful to see what's out there.
I really like the profiles they include.
Me too.
People who have, you know, made a career in this field.
Yeah, it shows you all the different things you can do.
It's very inspiring.
So we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
Understanding addiction, managing burnout,
Right.
answering questions about relapse and harm reduction,
Oh, the tough stuff.
and even figuring out your why.
That's the most important part.
And in part 3, we'll keep going.
Yes.
We'll look at how to use your strengths, how to handle salary negotiations, and how to make a great impression.
I can't wait.
All right, welcome back. It's the final part of our Substance Misuse Worker interview prep.
We're in the home stretch.
We are. We've talked about showcasing your experience, answering tough questions about relapse, harm reduction, even self-care.
All the important stuff.
Yeah, but now it's time to really polish those interview skills
Okay.
and make you shine.
Let's do it.
So we're going to talk about how to really show your passion, how to connect your values with the organization,
Yeah.
and how to handle those curveball questions.
The ones that come out of left field.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And of course, we'll see how RoleCatcher's AI can help.
Oh, yeah. It's like having a personal stylist for your interview wardrobe.
I love that. Okay, so let's jump right in with a question that might catch you off guard.
Okay.
What are your personal beliefs about recovery?
Oh, wow.
And you're probably thinking, wait a minute,
Yeah.
this is a job interview.
Not a therapy session.
Right. But it's actually a pretty common question.
Really?
Yeah, they want to know what your values are
Yeah. Okay.
and how they line up with the organization's approach.
That makes sense.
So how do you answer this without, writing a whole essay?
Well, think about what you believe.
Okay.
Do you see recovery as a lifelong process?
Hmm?
Do you think it should address the whole person?
Okay.
Mind, body, spirit?
Yeah.
Do you believe in harm reduction?
Right.
Share what you think.
Be authentic.
Yeah, and it's okay to say that your beliefs have changed over time.
That's a good point.
You know, as you've learned and grown.
And this is where I think you could use RoleCatcher's AI.
Oh, yeah.
Upload the organization's mission statement.
Okay.
Any information about their philosophy, and the AI can help you connect your beliefs with their values.
Like a research assistant.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Now, for the question that everyone hates, what are your weaknesses?
Ooh, I know.
It feels like a trap.
It does?
But it's not about, confessing all your flaws.
Right.
It's about showing self-awareness.
Okay.
And that you want to improve.
So how do we do that?
Well, choose a weakness that's not, crucial for the job.
Okay.
And then talk about how you're working on it.
So, for example?
You could say, I'm not great at public speaking.
Yeah.
But I've joined Toastmasters.
Okay.
Or I tend to take on too much. But I'm learning to delegate.
I like that.
And set boundaries.
Yeah. Turn that weakness into a strength.
Exactly. And guess what? RoleCatcher can help with this too.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You can practice your answer.
Okay.
And see if it sounds genuine.
That's so helpful.
All right, let's talk about the salary question.
The big one.
Yeah. What are your salary expectations?
Oh, I hate that question.
I know it's awkward, but it's going to come up.
It always does.
So do your research.
Yeah.
Websites like glassdoorsalary.com.
Yeah.
They can give you an idea of the salary range.
That's good to know.
And RoleCatcher also has advice on this.
They do?
Yeah, they have a whole section on salary negotiation.
Wow.
So don't just throw out a number.
Right.
Give them a range.
Okay.
You could say, based on my experience and the job description I'm looking for between this and that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And be prepared to back it up.
Okay.
Talk about your skills, your accomplishments, what makes you unique.
Don't sell yourself short.
Exactly. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to say that this is really just the beginning.
Yeah.
RoleCatcher has so many resources,
Ew.
career guides, AI tools
It's amazing.
that can really help you prepare.
It's like having a whole team of career coaches.
Yeah. So remember, you've got this.
You do.
You've chosen a tough but really rewarding field.
It is.
You're passionate about helping people, and you have the skills to make a difference.
So true.
So let that passion shine through.
Be yourself.
Be prepared.
Be confident.
And most importantly, believe in yourself.
That's the key.
And that's it for this episode of The Deep Dive.
Thanks for listening.
We wish you all the best in your Substance Misuse Worker interview.
Go out there and change the world.